and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us today. Whether you're tuning in from the UK, India, Australia, or anywhere in between, we are so pleased to have such a global audience for this Beyond Booking webinar. I'm Jessica, and I'm delighted to open this Beyond Booking webinar brought to you by Situ, a global service accommodation provider specialising in extended stays for corporate travellers. At Situ, we're all about making business travel simpler and smarter, and today's session fits right into that mission. We're exploring the evolution of technology in short and extended stays, a topic which I feel like you would agree with me, that's really reshaping how our sector operates, from guest experience and automation to growth at scale. Our fantastic speakers today are Anshul, co-founder and managing partner from Hybrid Resi, and Jeff, Chief Operating Officer from Urban Rest. I would like to say a big thank you to Jeff, who's kindly joining us from Australia in the late hours of this evening, and to Anshul and Richard for also lending us their time and fantastic insights. Richard is our host today, and I'm absolutely ecstatic to hand over to him today. So Richard, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. It's great to be here with everyone, and I'd like to obviously extend my thanks to Anshul and Jeff for joining me here today. Really excited to delve into this conversation, and I think it's probably only fit if we kick off. So I'd really like to start kind of at the foundations of how you guys have built your property management and distribution environment for your operations. And I think, Anshul, it's a great place to start with you. Obviously, as a relatively new entrant into the market and operator of extended stay apartments, I'd be really interested if you could walk us through some of the core technologies you've adopted so far. Really interested to understand kind of how you went about selecting some of those partners, some of the operation systems, some of the learnings you had from that, and if you've kind of got any advice within that you would offer to the audience about some of those learnings you made. So it'd be great to kick off, Anshul, just to get your thoughts around that.
Well, thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much, Jessica. It's a great opportunity to discuss this on the platform Situ. We at Hybrid Resi, we started a journey 3 years ago. Me and my partners have decided this concept and the key core principle of hotelization. So the concept of hotelization, where it started from bringing hospitality and its technology within the real estate environment. So that is the core. And from day one, we knew that a robust technology would be the backbone for our scalable and an efficient growth. We started with Muse as our core property management system, our operational central nervous system, which is chosen for its user-friendly and open API implications with regards to having a seamless integration as well. Once Muse was in place, we integrated with SiteMinder to manage our distribution across 450 channels, which is giving us the global reach and full control of our rates, most importantly, restrictions and availability. Next, it is more of a staggered but a strategic approach on step-by-step what we have been doing with regards to specifically on the technology front. We prioritize our guest experience and introduce an online check-in process, which is fully digital for the registration and compliance, especially making sure that we are complying under the Hotel Records Act 1972 on the immigration front, which is very, very imperative and important in the UK. Eliminating manual paperwork and reducing check-in time. Thereafter, we have introduced remote locks, which is again a fascinating tool. We can access them from anywhere, any part of the world as well, which added keyless entries to the apartment, improving security, convenience, and reducing the staffing cost, which is the most important element when we are looking at the bottom line profitability as well. So from our outset, our focus was on building, more importantly, an integrated, scalable, and an efficient solution, which is going to be for a long term in line with our vision. the strategy has been enable us to deliver more about excellent customer service and internally reducing the cost as well. So these are the parameters which we have worked so far in a strategic manner, but there is a lot with regards to the technology which we are looking in for the future. Very excited because we have just recently introduced a bit of an AI revolution on the revenue management as well, which is absolutely incredible how the performance have been given us to so far.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on your use of the AI and revenue management. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that in a little while. I think I'd be quite interested because Jeff, from your perspective, you took a slightly different route with your setup, opting to build on top of your PMS and utilizing your, should I say proprietary? I'm not so sure, but it'd be interesting to kind of take us through how the decisions you made within your setup and how you came to that decision to set up your overall tech stack within your environment.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be here with everyone. For those of you not aware of Urban Rest, so we are a corporate accommodation provider. We kind of sit very similar to a hybrid resi on the verge of corporate accommodation, short-term rental, and very close to hotels. We're a few years older than hybrid resi. Started about 8-9 years ago here in Australia. We've since scaled throughout Australia to New Zealand, the UK, and in Ireland. And that scaling component is incredibly important. So the selection of a core PMS is really key, I find, in kind of setting up for your technology. But by sitting on the hybrid of so many different industries that arguably are merging and kind of flexing into one. What we found is that we couldn't find a PMS that really suited our requirements and could flex with us and could scale with us really easily. And so what we selected is a PMS that is extremely open and transparent, which is Guesty. Then we use that as a foundational PMS, which is an API first PMS, allowing us to really build an infrastructure on top of that. So we've worked really hard on that infrastructure layer, like you said, Richard. Hard to say proprietary because it's built on an existing system. It's built on Salesforce, but it's really, we've built our operating platform on top of Salesforce. So every single team throughout our company, if that's from guest relations, our sales teams, our onboarding teams for new buildings, our operational teams, our housekeepers, all operate on different parts of Salesforce, really blending that one core operating platform. Salesforce is one of those fantastic platforms that it's a great box. Nothing comes out of the box, but you've got the opportunity to really build on top of it. That really allowed us to build so much automations and efficiencies for all of our team members that suited our needs for our business. I think what you often see is that while PMSs do a fantastic job in building their product, it's always going to be a bit of a trade-off depending on what part of the market you're in. And so custom building on an open solution like Salesforce really allowed us to build all of those automations, but still have the core foundation of a PMS that, like Anshul said, plugs in the likes of SiteMinder, our Salto, our keyless entry, and those kind of things. So slightly different solution that suit our need for our kind of our global scaling business.
Yeah. So I think my follow-up on that one would be, Jeff, at what point did you decide through that kind of evolution, and when you joined the business, you decided actually we need to look at our setup and how that works, because it's not efficient enough for what we're doing? What was that aha moment? You kind of, actually, that's where I'm looking to go, and this is what works for me.
Yeah,
was one.
100%. Being really honest with you, when the sticky tape became too hard to keep together,
Right.
Because when you find yourself into constantly building workarounds, in constantly finding, oh, you know what, I can do this, but I have to make that compromise. At that point in time, you go, I don't know how long I can support this, or how much I can support this with an ever-growing, globally scaling business. So at that point in time, we knew that we had to find a different solution, and we knew that anything off the shelf wasn't going to work for us. And so, which is when we decided to set up our partnership with Salesforce as well as with Guesty. And the two systems integrate 100%. And so as soon as a booking goes into Guesty, it's in Salesforce and vice versa. So that's incredibly important that you don't have standalone systems.
Interesting, really interesting. Anshul, just to kind of touching on kind of the growth and the market expansion. Jeff obviously touched on that a little bit with some of his decision making around going into the setup that he's got. From your point of view, I know you're kind of in your growth phase of your organization, in your business. What considerations are you making within your setup? What's helping you drive into new markets or looking at new markets from your point of view?
Absolutely, I think so. Very good question with regards to that particularly, because we have strategically looked into do a pilot testing, more important rather than saying established way of working. But we have started doing a bit of a pilot testing in the Middle East and Dubai market last year, just to see how things will plan around with that as well. So when we have a digital setup behind us with a template which is ready, along with Muse and having SiteMinder, which is giving a global distribution and giving a global coverage and presence in that particular market, which has really helped us looking at all as a setup, all the technologies coming in the one ecosystem, which has helped us to have a digital foundation in that respective market after analyzing the data, what is required from the compliance perspective, the legal requirements and those kind of things. So it has really helped us with having that sort of an ecosystem collectively via the technology, having a great digital foundation in that part of the world, rather than having a physical presence office in there. So we can control all our inventory and stocks with a single click of a button, having going through in the Muse, which is a central, as I said, central nervous system from our perspective. This is really helping us to create a basic template from our business. We have been working very hard for the last 3 years to create that template, making sure every different elements of that digital piece works collectively together. Having an open API is a must to make sure that things are delivered exactly, and most importantly, having that customer enhancement and guest experience taken care of within the hospitality sector.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you talk around that, because obviously you're using that Muse as your central plug and play solution. Yes. And you touched on a little bit earlier around kind of using AI in revenue management, connected into SiteMinder. Obviously, I see SiteMinder as a key component to you getting your content and distributing your content to a wider audience. I'm aware that more recently you had a very extended stay booked through an OTA, which was really interesting to see. The fact that was actually booked real time, done, and off you go. So yeah, it'd be interesting if you could talk more around how you're using kind of your AI within revenue management, how you're using your distribution setup to support your expansion into Dubai and other markets. And also, I'd be quite interested to understand how you manage the differentials between some of that kind of more transient short stay business that is coming and feeding through some of the more traditional routes that you're in with the OTAs versus how other operators such as Situ are bringing you that kind of more longer stay business. So yeah, so I'd be kind of interested to understand a little bit more about that and that whole AI revenue management piece.
Again, a very fascinating question, and I get absolutely goosebumps in going through with these kind of queries and questions, responding back. We breathe this technology basically right now within hybrid resi. So to answer your very first question about revenue management and the AI tool which we are using, we started about 6 months ago which again has an open API integration with Muse. The most important thing is that we control the rates and restrictions. I will definitely come back to you on the subject of distribution as well. But the AI is using the AI-driven algorithms to adjust pricing in real time. Looking at the competitors in that respective market, we operate in 10 different locations in London. It's very difficult. It's a laborious process to look after everything which is happening in that respective market. So AI has given that flexibility for us to work around those 10 different markets, looking at the competitor rates, looking at the occupancy trends, the local events happening, if there are any, and the booking patterns. And by analyzing the OTA channels and different form of online presence on the global sense. The most important thing is that real time, as you mentioned, that we recently received we did receive a very long booking apparently via one of the platforms and online platforms, which is quite fascinating. I always rave about it. It was for nearly about 2-year booking, which is insane to hear about that. Yeah, that is very, 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 very insane to hear about that. So that's one with regards to how we are using the revenue management AI tool on a day-to-day basis, and it has been very effective. We have seen a growth in occupancy by 5% in last 6 months compared year-on-year basis, just on that particular tool, and an ADR driven of 6%, which is fascinating as well. But again, we are using technology, and we are. I was on a call with one of our partners as well. And we were discussing about how operational cost efficiency it has given to us by using those technology. And we have seen a decline of 11.6% in our operational costs, which is, again, a huge, huge upliftment from when we're looking at the profitability margins.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, just one quick follow-up before I move over to Jeff and ask a similar question. And this has just sprung to mind. When you're getting these extended stay bookings through some of these more established channels like the OTAs, do you see them coming from specific regions, or is it pretty much kind of hit and miss?
So it's all around. The larger bookings are coming from the UK itself, I should say, so, rather than abroad at the moment. Yes, we are receiving international market bookings as well, mainly from Middle East, because of course we have a bit of a presence. We have updated them. So we are getting that kind of businesses online. But most importantly, you've asked the question about, our core business, of course, lies on extended stays, working with corporates, relocation, companies, thanks to Situ. That is our core business. What and how we are using our distribution via SiteMinder, if you ask me, that is a broad funnel reach from our perspective. That's a strategy which we are using. We are going out in the market and showcasing that we are available. That's a marketing and advertising technique. And the reason we are saying that is we are just using that OTA business only for the short term and filling the gaps rather than having a long-term strategies. But if you are getting a long-term bookings, absolutely, they're more than welcome. We won't say no to them at all, because that's where the business is all about. But yes, Mohan, the key strategy from our perspective, OTA we're using to fill in the short gaps, making sure that we have the rates and restrictions in place, which is the key phenomenal thing. But now with AI in place, we are seeing a phenomenal increase in revenue and the ADR growth for next year as well, which is incredible.
It's great to hear. It's great the fact that technology is helping you do that as well, and helping.
Absolutely.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah, certainly on the right path from our perspective.
Fantastic. So Jeff, I feel I've left you alone for the last 5 minutes or so.
Sorry about that.
It's not a problem. So from your perspective, I mean, with a slightly kind of different setup, because you obviously have your real estate and stock is slightly different to Anshul's and hybrid resi. How do you manage that revenue management across your portfolio and distribution, and managing what your kind of the content you have in the GDSs versus the OTAs versus providers like Situ? So how do you ensure that you are getting the most for that unit or for that property within your kind of setup? And I'm going to make an assumption here. It's kind of all done through your sales force that sits across the top of it. But again, I may be making an incorrect assumption on that one. Jeff, you're muted.
Apologies about that. It's an interesting one. Actually, in revenue management and distribution, we have decided to actually take an off-the-shelf product, because we feel like there's actually in revenue management, particularly, there's a great amount of off-the-shelf products available. As everyone knows, yieldable rates with perishable products, with thousands of different apartments in different locations around the world, it does get really complex, right? So as Anshul said, without AI or without technology looking after that, it becomes an almost impossible task to manage. We similar from a distribution perspective, use our connection to SideMiner, and then broaden that out to distribution channels like the GDS, as well as OTA channels from a distribution perspective. We've plugged in an off-the-shelf revenue management tool that our revenue management team uses as a base, and they override wherever needed, compared to the competition wherever they need it. I think what is really important, if you sit in this hybrid between hotels and corporate accommodation, is that you ensure that you know what audience you want to attract for each of those buildings, and then that you revenue manage for that. And while I'm sure all operators in the room know that you can get the highest ADR on a short-term leisure booking that books 6, 7, 8 months out, it is not the most sustainable customer for the future. And therefore, we deployed a rolling length of stay requirement across our network, effectively allowing our inventory to remain blocked for longer terms, the further out you go from check-in. So if you want to book for December or November, you might have to book for a minimum of 14 or 30 nights, and as that date comes forward, that becomes shorter and shorter, like Anshul said, to fill in those gaps, right? Not give all of that inventory away. From a technology perspective, we're largely using off-the-shelf products there, because we found those the most cost-effective and the most easy to use for our team members. Where we've gone with a much more custom product built on our Salesforce instance is really in that guest relations, in that operations, and in that customer service layer, where we found that there aren't the right tools available for our product or for our business. Revenue management distribution is actually, from a distribution perspective, we have to fit in with the industry we operate in, right? And so there's quite a bit of off-the-shelf products available that you can plug and play really easily.
Yeah, so I think from your setup perspective, when you're talking about your teams across the globe, are they essentially, they're still working within your Salesforce layers, and if you've just plugged in your revenue management tool of choice? Is that how that operates, or do they have to go into the revenue management tool of choice and do how are you kind of balancing that? Is it just under one umbrella, or are they still having to move between?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Our core philosophy within our technology is a one system solution, which was ultimately the decision to go for Salesforce. Our revenue management team is probably the only exception on that, where I can't offer that yet. There is very little value in actually replicating everything that sits in a revenue management platform back into Salesforce. So that team actually largely works out of our revenue management tool, while all other team members work from Salesforce. It's only, Richard, I don't know how you did it, but you found my only outlier of the team that isn't working from our Salesforce instance.
Sorry, I apologize.
That they're working from our revenue management tool.
I mean, at the end of the day, well, actually, that brings me neatly into this kind of my next kind of question on this subject is like, is there kind of any gaps and challenges that you're finding within your distribution setup that your technology hasn't allowed for, or you can't find anything that's kind of filling that gap at this point in time from your overall in-house setup? So do you find that there's a piece that you kind of think, that needs working on, or I need that's kind of, that off the shelf doesn't quite work for me and I'm having to develop that? How does that sit with you?
Yeah, look, there's so many things that I still want to do within the revenue management and distribution space, right? While a lot of our product are larger buildings, anywhere between 40 to 70 to 80 apartments, and they really follow that hotel model really easily, right? They're really set up for that, and therefore fall in line with a lot of the systems that are out there. We do still, in certain locations where it's really hard to get the right stock, but there's a lot of demand. Here in Sydney, in the heart of Sydney, Surrey Hills is a location like that, lifestyle location where consumers really want to be, but you don't have the 70, 80, 90 apartment buildings. So we therefore have decided to strategically take some smaller stock because our customers want to be there. Distribution for smaller stocks is really difficult. So distributing a building of 6, 7, 8 apartments to the GDS becomes almost not cost effective, and so we've been investing a lot of time and effort in direct connections to our travel management partners, direct connections to the direct booking platforms to almost bypass that in those. So there's certainly still a lot in that field that we have to work on, and we are working on. The other part is we're competing with two very different industries, and kind of starting both of them, that being hotels as well as corporate accommodation. They require very different revenue management strategies, and so bringing that together is really important to us. I'm not saying that we've nailed that yet. There's still quite a lot of work to do. Hotels are incredibly quick and intelligent with their revenue management strategies, and so bringing those two closer together, following the competition quicker in terms of when we can yield, when we should yield, or when we should pull that rate down. Look, there's so much still to be done in that, and we're working on that to kind of bring that closer together.
No, very interesting. Anshul, just I suppose similar to you, gaps from your perspective in that setup from your point of view.
No, absolutely. I think so. From our perspective, technology has really evolved past 3 years since we've opened. But I think so the biggest gap we still see in more importantly the compliance and maintenance on the operation perspective, and the guest journey, guest journey, I should say, more of the customer service. So we use another digital platform, an online geofence platform, where we have inspections and everything's done. But that is again a separate arm, as Jeff mentioned. There are separate entities which is plug and play, but that is not colliding right now within the ecosystem. So that's where we find the gap. But we are certainly working with our partners to create a seamless API integrations to get those things connected again with Muse. So everything which is flowed more about the compliance and maintenance perspective, that comes into the Muse part. So that's something we are really looking forward to create, something which is not available in the market yet. So either we have to create something fresh, working with our partners. That's something. There is a gap from our perspective, which we know in our business. We're looking to plug it up as well. Yeah,
interesting. I mean, as you know, we here at Situ have recently integrated and certified into Muse as well, which is the way we will be connected into hybrid resi. Well, I should say already connected to hybrid resi. So we're constantly looking at those direct API integrations and how they operate from that side. That's really interesting, and thank you guys for that. I think I kind of like to slightly change tact and start to kind of look a little bit on technology and kind of your guest journey and your guest services and that, and not just that kind of the service, but also how that works within your kind of your properties, the environment. And I know that's really big for our customers here at Situ, and also our teams here at Situ. I kind of would be kind of like to kick off, be really interested, and I know, Jeff, you and I, from conversations that we've had in the past, you've touched on the fact that that's where you're kind of using AI in that space a lot with your guest journey and your and the guest service perspective. But it would be really interested if you could take us through in a bit more detail how you're using AI to enhance that, some of the products that you're using to kind of make that experience when you have your guests on site, how you're making their experience even better than it already is.
Yeah, of course. Look, I want to state first that we are a hospitality business, and a hospitality business will always be a human interface business. So while we run a digital guest experience, that doesn't mean that there's no humans for you for guests to interact with. Actually, we really see AI as and technology as a whole really as a layer to make our team members more efficient, and that they can help our guests more easily rather than replace them. Sure, there is an opportunity for self-servicing if guests want to. There are lots of guests out there who prefer to just search things themselves or self-service rather than speak to a human. But want to state first, we're in hospitality business, right? So service is everything we do. What we really focus on in particularly the last year and a half in the rolling out of our AI journey has been focused on making our team members, our guest service team members, more efficient in answering questions. We run well over 1,000 units globally. We have a 24/7 guest relations team. Those team members sit all over the world in order to service our guests. Often they're answering questions about units they've never been in, right? They probably haven't even been to the city they're answering questions about. And we want to make sure that our team members are extremely knowledgeable in what they're answering. So we've built this knowledge layer within our platform, knowing exactly every single type of device, every single type of TV, oven, name it, air conditioning unit, whatever else is in an apartment that you might get questions about. And then as soon as an inquiry comes in from a guest or from an agent into our guest relations team, if that is via web chat, via text message, via call, or via email, our AI layer effectively looks up where that guest is staying, what assets there are, or what we call them assets, what devices, what make and model of oven is in that particular unit, and then starts helping the agent answering the question. So for example, if a guest calls us and says, hey, I'm staying in Urban West Battersea, and I don't know how to use the microwave. I don't know why they're always making the microwave so difficult to use. I feel like you need a PhD for those nowadays. But let's say that happens, and rather than our team member having to look at what microwave is in this particular unit, then look up how that microwave works and be able to answer the question, our AI layer automatically is taking that search, is looking up what microwave is in there, how to answer the question, and is providing our agent with really easy to use steps, which is pre-written so they can also text or email it directly to the guest. And so we've really focused on that. It's making sure that our team members can actually spend time talking to guests and helping guests rather than clicking through systems trying to find out how it works and where to find that information. So that's been really core to our journey, ensuring that we use AI to make our team more effective rather than to replace team members. And we're doing that throughout, right? We've also now made that available directly to our guests. Like I said, lots of digital first people out there. I'm probably one of them that not super keen to pick up the phone to ask for, let me just see if I can text with someone and get that answer. So making that available has been really really important. And so that's kind of been the core of our journey, very focused on providing a better service to our guests. And doing it that way. Another way of doing that is there's QR codes in every single one of our apartments to speed that up. If you scan that QR code, the QR code already knows what apartment you're in. So again, that it kind of cuts out the amount of information you have to give to our team members in order to get the right information out of it. It's all about speed of service and helping our guests enjoying the apartment rather than being on the phone with our agents about how the oven or the microwave works.
No, I agree, and I agree with you on microwaves. I stayed in an apartment recently, and it was an oven microwave, and I just got confused. So I went out and got a takeout.
They make them so difficult nowadays, right? If there's any suppliers on there making microwaves, please make them easier. They're very hard to use.
It's just like, why can't it be like the one in my kitchen?
Right.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for that, Jeff. Anshul, similar to you, and I know right at the beginning you mentioned about the work that you do from regulation prior to your guests arriving on site and things. So obviously you're using it in kind of the whole journey. So again, similar, how's hybrid resi using technology in your kind of guest experience?
I think so. It's exactly, this is the best practice where the hospitality is evolving and embracing that technology part. We are in the same line as what Jeff has mentioned. Certainly, what the initial process is, we asked to complete and giving everything in the hands of a guest, because considering the GDPR compliance, of course, absolutely is a very utmost priority. Rather than we taking the details, we are asking an online check-in to be completed by the guest. It takes less than 2 minutes to upload the information, which is required by the legal, it's a legal requirement by the law to be completed. Once the guest has got all the details, they have the codes, access codes for their apartments to check in. There is no need for anybody else to be there present unless there is a requirement for meet and greet. So it's a complete self-check-in process from our perspective in any of our properties. Guests, again, in every apartment, we have got the QR codes placed for the guests to access the lovely microwaves, the dishwashers and the washing machines, how you operate them. So there are, of course, the videos have been created for them to have an ease. Again, we as an hybrid, as Jeff mentioned, there is a combination of both. We have best of both worlds. We have 24-hour support team, which is available within the UK and abroad as well. Plus, we are, of course, in a journey right now as we speak. We are looking to implement and engage AI into our day-to-day communication and enhancing the guest experience as well. That's a piece which we are currently working on, not finished yet. So it's an exciting journey for the next 6 to 8 months, what we come up with.
Interesting, nice. So we've got, I think, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes left. So just a couple of last questions. I think my first question to both of you, and I'll start with Jeff. Out of like the last, I think 3 years of your time at Urban Res, out of that time, when you've been going through this process, what has been your biggest learning that you've kind of made that you think would be useful to share with the audience as you've gone on that kind of journey of distribution, setup, tech stack from that point of view? What would be your biggest learning on that one?
Yeah, of course. Look, Richard, I come from a hotel background, and I've always been used to the fact that there are lots of off-the-shelf platforms available that are tailored to that industry, right? It's a global industry that has been established for so many different years. And while I'm not sitting here that hotel technology is great, because it's not, it's very legacy, but still there's a lot of dedicated product available for that industry. When I moved over to Urban Res, and where you're sitting in a bit of an edge case, my biggest learning is that it's really easy, and you easily fall in the trap of accepting trade-offs. And every time you accept the trade-off, you will have to deal with the consequences later on in your journey when you've scaled. A trade-off that is doable today is not doable when you're 6 times the size. That's probably been my biggest learnings, and I'm sure I've got some team members listening today. I have made huge mistakes based on the fact that I was accepting trade-offs very early on that were doable with the amount of units we had at that point in time, where as soon as you double, triple, quadruple, no longer become possible anymore, or acceptable anymore. So my biggest learnings is really for when you're putting a solution in place, evaluate those trade-offs, look at the scalability of those trade-offs, and is there an alternative available? So off the shelf is amazing, might not always be the best way to go.
Thank you for that. And Anshul, to you?
Well, Richard, I, just like Jeff, I'm in the industry for the past 2 decades now. I have seen systems probably people don't even know, likes of Fidelio and Brilliant, which we have used. So, when we are coming up from that age and we have gone through that process, in that last 20 odd years, where I have gone through and understood the systems which are great, which works, and which doesn't work. So it has really blessed me and the company itself to see what technology we can use and implement, particularly within the hybrid resi, which we know is a foolproof and working very well in the past. So, I mean, I've used different distribution channels, I've used different PMSs as well. So, but when it comes down to hybrid resi, right present at the moment, we are using those technologies, which is creating an ecosystem and in line, and more importantly, working with our property management system, which is Muse. And it's a fascinating journey. So yes, of course, we have made mistakes. We have activated something else, and we have to let it go, and then we have to change it. But of course, you know, this is part and parcel. You improve day by day by making mistakes and learning from there.
Nice, thank you for that. And one final question, and I'd be interested, because I've already asked you both of you this question. I'd be interested in whether you've changed your mind from when we asked you this question last time. One piece of tech that you couldn't operate without today. Anshul, do you want to go first?
For me, I think so. From us, as a broader perspective, from a company and from myself, it will be Muse.
Nice. And Jeff, from your perspective? Muted again, sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, I go very personal here. This has nothing to do with my company, but who can still live without ChatGPT, right? Who's still writing their own emails?
I think I'm with you on that one, actually, Jeff, definitely. That very much, I would agree on that one from that perspective. Well, I mean, we're at the time, 2 minutes over, but I think we've done quite well on that one. Basically, Jeff, Anshul, thank you very much for the time today. Going through those points that we've just discussed. Very, very interesting. I hope everybody on the call found that very interesting, and I will hand back over to Jessica, who will wrap up for us.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Richard. And if not said at the start of the call today, Richard is Situ's distribution director, and I feel he's really shown his great expertise here within this sector. Huge thank you to Jeff and Anshul for sharing such brilliant insights on this webinar today. I really feel we've covered a lot of ground today, and I feel like whether that's from building smarter tech stacks to enhancing guest journeys, driving global growth through automation and innovation, like we've done so much today. It's fantastic. If anyone would like a quick recap, please see the key learnings on today's session on the slide here. You're probably thinking, what's next for Situ? Well, I'm so glad you asked. What's next for Beyond Booking Webinars is we've actually got 2 webinars coming up for September and October. Personally, I am very, very excited about these. So please keep an eye in your inbox, as we will be sharing details very, very soon. But overall, thanks again for being part of today's session, Anshul and Jeff, and we will see everybody next time very, very soon. All right then, thank you ever so much. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.